please subscribe to the Books on Toast channel. If you don't, your boyfriends and girlfriends will stop liking you and your toes will hurt.
Hello everybody, we are at JLF and these are JLF's series of special videos that we're doing, and we are joined here with Alexander McCall Smith, the Alexander McCall Smith whose books we, I guess, possibly have grown up reading, at least for Anuya and I. This is a momentous occasion, so we literally ran like, he's here, I'm like, what, he's here? And we're here.
Yeah, we had like plates full of food and then we abandoned them because they called us the Alexander McCall Smith is free and we're like, holy shit, yeah, so we ran.
I'm sorry to have disturbed your lunch.
No, please disturb our lunch. So guys, there's going to be a lot of noise in the background and we apologize for it, but we are shooting this at JLF 2019, which is why you're just going to have to bear with it, and to make up for it, we have...
Pause for dramatic effect. Many pause for dramatic effect. First and foremost, congratulations for 20th year of number one ladies detective agency. It has also been, like, I think one of our childhood's biggest joys to be reading.
Oh, well, thank you.
Such wonderful, series
thank
of books.
you.
It's also a series of 20 books.
Yes, well, I'm writing volume 20 now. It's been 20 years, but so far there've only been 19 volumes. Yes. And this year I will do the 20th. So there was a year that I missed. So we're coming up to the volume 20, which I'm about to start.
Mm-hmm. So I think our first question to you really is, if you look back over the last 20 years and 19 years of writing the novels, do you, I'm sure you must be inundated with so many fan questions all the time. What has been the most strangest and most endearing things that you've encountered over the journey?
Well, I suppose the most endearing things have been the relationship, to discover the relationship between the readers and the characters. That has been a great pleasure for me, to discover that there are many people throughout the world who regard Maramatswe and Mamakutsi and all the people in the detective agency as their friends. And that creates a great big club, which is lovely for me. So wherever I travel, I meet people who know those characters, and I feel that we've got common friends. It's as if you're meeting somebody and you have a friend in common. That's been a great discovery for me, and I take that very seriously. And so it's wonderful. I've always known that there have been many people in India who have appreciated Maramatswe and her story, and so that is a very particular pleasure for me. That, I think, is one of the main discoveries that I've made in the last few years. It, of course, imposes a real responsibility on the writer, because you realize that the character doesn't belong to you, the writer, belongs to everybody who's a friend of the characters. And so I could never let anything nasty happen to those characters. That would just be quite wrong. So I have a certain responsibility.
So you cleared it for me, but I want to ask you if it's Maramotse or Ma?
Well, you're right in the second pronunciation there. The double M in Setswana language accentuates the M sound a bit, so it's ma. It's just, you were absolutely right, your instinct was right. It just slightly emphasizes the ma sound. But I tend to call her Maramatswe, but it should be Maramatswe. But it's all the same person. And similarly with the honorific that they use for men, the ra, it's a rolled R. Ra, yes, Ra, exactly. There are, you're speaking Setswana.
So I just want to tell my story of the number one ladies detective agency. So about 21 or 22, 12 years ago, 11 or 12 years ago, I used to work for a magazine called JLT, which was like a youth magazine, and there we had a section called You Got to Read. So we picked like really cool books that were being read around the world, and we featured the number one ladies
Right, thank you.
Way back when, and that's how I discovered it, and that's how I started reading it.
Right.
And so this has been it's been a long friendship.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
For me, it was also an introduction to Botswana.
Yes.
I had I'm very sad to say, not
No.
even considered until
No,
that
no,
point. And
no.
I was like, wow, and like it made me want to go there.
Yes, yes.
So why Botswana? Like, how did you chance upon that,
Yes.
that character?
In that. Well, I was very interested to hear you say how it introduced you to Botswana, because most people never hear very much about Botswana, because Botswana is a very peaceful country. So we tend to hear in the newspapers, in the media, we hear about countries where there are difficulties. So many countries in sub-Saharan Africa have had certain problems, and they're reported in the press, and we hear about all the problems, and we tend not to hear the good news, and we tend not to hear about countries like Botswana. Tanzania is another example where there isn't too much trouble, and so people haven't necessarily had much exposure to Botswana. So I think for many people it has been a bit of a discovery, as indeed it was for me when I first went to Botswana. I went and worked at the university there many years ago, and I discovered, it was a personal discovery for me of this country where everybody was remarkably nice. They're very nice people, and it's a very peaceful country, and of course it was in the middle of a rather difficult part of southern Africa, and there was Botswana, peaceful, with a strong tradition of respect for human rights, and a remarkable place with these very, very courteous people, very, very high degree of courtesy. And I was very struck by this country. And the more time I spent there, the more I thought I would like to write about somebody who lives in this country and tell the story of these remarkable people. And so I did that. I sat down and I wrote what I thought was going to be a short story. And initially it was a short story, which goes to show how wrong you can be about what you're doing. And I thought this would just be a very brief encounter with this lady in Botswana, and it turned into a very long literary conversation, which is now 20 years old. And I'm very pleased that I decided to have that conversation. That's how it started, really.
It's really fascinating what you talk about, this small country in southern Africa, surrounded by so much turmoil, and yet it's such a peaceful nation. And
yes.
you built like a whole crime series based,
yes.
In this country. So it's a bit of like danger right there being implanted.
Yes, not a great deal of crime, though. You see, Mara Matsui, she calls herself a detective, but mostly it's psychological problems, and mostly it's the problems in people's lives. So we don't have any bodies really in these books. So sometimes when people describe me as a crime novelist, I think, well, not really. I'm not the real crime novelist, because in crime novels, properly so called, you have to have a body somewhere about page 3, or the readers feel that it's not working.
There's also there was a whole very popular series that ran for season 1 as
yes,
well, right?
yes,
The late Anthony Minghella.
yes,
Fantastic
yes,
rendition.
yes,
Or to screen.
yeah.
And then I think season 2 just sort of never came. Then there
Never
was supposed
came.
to be 2 movies. Can
Yeah.
you solve this mystery for us? Will it come back?
Well, I would love it to come back. The history of that is that Anthony Minghella, that great director, who was such a wonderful film director, I loved his films. The Talented Mr. Ripley is a beautiful film. Wow, that's good. Marvelous acting. But the texture of Italy, the atmosphere of Italy, everything about that. And I was very pleased when it was announced that Anthony Minghella would make the film. So he made the feature film at the beginning, which was the long 2-hour film that kicked off the series. Then there was the HBO and BBC series, which was 6 subsequent hour-long films. And I think they did that very well. Now, the problem was that it was expensive to make, and unfortunately, Anthony Minghella died on the day of the premiere of the film in London. It was very, very sad. So it was his last film, and therefore the series lost its main director, and so we didn't have a second series, which is a great pity. I'd love to see a second series. I'd love to see it made again. And well, you know, who's got the biggest film industry in the world? India. If you could have a word with the Bollywood people, let's make it here.
you tell them, let's go to Botswana to shoot.
Yes, I would. I think a very, very good idea. Get Mumbai to make this next series. I will sign the agreement. Yes, no problem.
So I'm going to come back to you saying that there's no body in
Yeah.
number one ladies and agency, and use that as a segue. Talk about the Sunday philosophy club.
Yes.
Yeah, because that one has a body.
Yes, that one. The first one does. Yes.
Was that intentional so that you could differentiate it?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Well, that's really is very interesting. In the Sunday Philosophy Club, which is my second series, which followed on from the number one ladies detective agency, I have this philosopher who lives in Edinburgh, Isabel Dalhousie, and she solves all sorts of issues. And there was one body in the sense that somebody fell from a height in a concert hall. And it was, in a sense, accidental, so without giving the whole thing away. So, but you're quite right to say that's one of the few bodies in my books. And thereafter there weren't in the Isabel Dalhousie novels. Nobody fell from anything, and nothing too unpleasant happened.
Which begs the question, why are all your heroines middle-aged spinsters?
Well, not all of them are middle-aged spinsters. I do write. Some of them are young spinsters. Well, I do write a lot about women. A lot of my heroes or heroines are women. I find I'm very interested in the conversation of women, and I'm interested in the women's perspective on the world. I mean, if you imagined that I was writing about two male detectives in Botswana in that little office, the conversation wouldn't be as good. Whereas with Mama Kutsi and Mara Matsui, you get some very nice observations. Men wouldn't say the same things, because the conversation of men is different. Men talk more about, they talk less about their feelings and the feelings of other people, I think, 'cause this is a big generalization. But generally speaking, that's the case. Whereas women are more interested in the subjective and in psychological dimension of things. So I find that just a bit more interesting. I have male characters as well, but you're right, I do have a lot of female characters. Mara Matsui she's somewhere in her 40s. Isabel Dalhousie is somewhere in her 40s. They tend not to grow older. They just stay the same age. I do have some younger female characters in my Scotland Street series. I've got young women who are in their early 20s. So I do have different ages, and I've got a couple of little boys in that series who are the little Bertie in my Scotland Street series is 7. He's 6 for 8 years, and eventually he turns 7. It's a chronological problem.
But that also brings me to the question, you're a very voracious reader, like you write a lot, and if I may read out this quote that I picked up in an interview by somebody on you. It says that even when traveling, he never loses a day, turning out between 2,000 to 3,000 words a day, but more than 5,000 words when at home in Edinburgh. His usual rate is 1,000 words an hour. Is that true?
Yes.
Is this true?
Well, it is. I mean, I'm not. I don't want you to think I'm boasting, but I do write quite quickly. So I write 1,000 words an hour when I'm writing. I don't have to sit there and think about what is going to happen. Interestingly enough, I think that as a writer, you have to develop brain pathways which take you to your subconscious. And the subconscious, I think, makes up a lot of fiction. And so this is happening in the subconscious mind. And all that you're doing there is acting as the medium for the expression of this. I think it's a curious process. It's the same as playing the piano. If you learn to play the piano, you don't think, where am I going to put my fingers? Your fingers automatically go to the right keys on the keyboard. And I think that's the case with writing. So I sit there and the text just comes to me. Obviously, it's happening in my mind somewhere, but I'm not really sitting and thinking about it in a conscious fashion. I think writing does respond to practice. Facility in writing responds to practice, as does anything, whether it's running or doing long jump or playing the piano is another example, playing a musical instrument, singing. Practice, so it becomes second nature.
Okay, so you do talk about music.
Yes.
Lesser known fact about Alexander McCall Smith is that he's a gifted bassoonist.
No, very ungifted bassoonist. That's very kind, but I'm one of the world's worst bassoonists. I'm a very bad musician. I don't play at all well. And about another 20 years ago, my wife and I formed an orchestra in Edinburgh called the Really Terrible Orchestra, for people who can't play well. In fact, for people who play really badly. Oh well, yes. We're always looking for new members. But you're probably too good. You see, you wouldn't be allowed to.
No, I'm
you wouldn't be allowed.
I'm honest.
Well, the really terrible orchestra is for you. And these are people who want to play in an orchestra but who can't play very well.
So who are the other members in this orchestra?
Well, we've got about 50 members. It's a full orchestra, yes. And they're all, one or two of them are quite good.
Okay.
We've got about 5 people who are quite good. And then we've got about 45 people who are really bad. And I'm one of the really bad people. So, and we play appallingly. I'll give you an example. Our conductor often has to stop us, and he says, "Stop, go back," and we go back to a previous bit of the music. There was one occasion when he stopped us. He said, "Stop, something really bad is happening here." And in fact, what was happening was that one section of the orchestra was playing a different piece of music. They'd got their music mixed up, and so it sounded very strange. So we are very bad. But playing music together is one of life's great pleasures. Playing music together, even if you aren't very good, is just such a wonderful experience.
Why should the talented ones?
Why should the talent? Exactly.
Ask the lazy ones also join in from time to time.
Exactly. That's the right philosophy.
Play with you in the orchestra?
Well, they're too good. I've got 2 daughters who actually are quite good. My elder daughter, Lucy, she was a very good trombonist, and then she stopped playing the trombone and took up the piano accordion, and she plays very well. And she's one of these people who can just play by ear. They can pick up any instrument, and she plays. And my younger daughter, Emily, plays the trumpet very well, and so they're too good for us.
Oh, wow. But thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
It was an honor.
Well, it was an honor for me to talk to you, and it was such an interesting chat. We could have gone on for much longer, and I feel that I've had some valuable therapy.
So you guys, you know what to do. Share this video, leave your comments below, and let us know what you thought. Subscribe to our channel because we're bringing Alexander McCall Smith to you. And also, thank you, JLF, for giving us the time and space to do this. We are very happy.
Yes. All right.
Thank you so much.